Well, good morning. My name's Lorene. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. I'm bringing this video to you from our swinging hammock that I have fallen out of twice. So, not this year. I still have to fall out of it this year. But I thought something a little different, partly because it is stinky hot. I know it's not as hot as it can get because the cicadas haven't started. So, but my eyelids are sweating. And that's enough for me to know that it's time to just find the shade and lie down somewhere with the book. But I don't have too much to talk about in the way of books today because I'm sort of in the middle of 4 books. I'm starting to read The Stolen Bicycle by Wu Ming Yi, and Steve reviewed it. I think I mentioned that he reviewed it back when we were doing the oh my gosh, it was the levels for getting, what was that? Oh my god. You had to get so many levels in order to be a wizard or whatever, a librarian at the wizard school. And Steve read this book, and I had chosen it for a black and white cover because it just has the gorgeous illustrations on this side. Well, you start to see the elephant's ear, and then as the book turns, you get his nose around to the front. So it's a beautiful cover. It's definitely an interesting book with respect to stories. There's tons and tons of different stories. They come about from as a result of a young man deciding that he's going to try and find his father's stolen bicycle. His dad disappeared 20-some years earlier, and along with that, a bike was stolen. So he's trying to track down the last bike, and I don't think he really expects to find his father, but there's a certain amount of hope about that. The other thing is that as he's going on this bicycle journey, he's encountering different makes of bicycles that were made in either Japan or Taiwan, and so we get to know the history of the particular different bikes that were used either in the wars, the Japanese, Russian wars, I guess, start off with having used bicycles, and it comes on through to the war in Korea. And I think right now we're kind of at where the British were trying to colonize that area as well. So there's quite a journey of the bike as well. I realized as I'm reading this that I am deeply entrenched in my Western storytelling devices. I'm looking for plot, I'm looking for character, I'm looking for an arc of some connectivity. There, I'm sure it's here. It's just that it's a different way of telling a story, and I have to set aside my they're not so much preconceptions as habits, I guess, because that's sort of what I expect when I read fairy tales from different countries. You encounter also different means of story arc and so forth, and so, but those are shorter, so it's easier to kind of read it and come to a conclusion and not get annoyed by not having your expectations met. So this is on me. The storyteller is brilliant. The stories are lovely. He's a very lyrical writer, and he brings in some amazing details, quite unexpected details at times. And there's certainly things around the history of Taiwan that I have zero idea. I mean, I expect you would have zero idea too. So it's certainly fascinating, and but it's slow. And so what I've done is try to intersperse it with other books. And I don't want to bend too much in case I fall out of this thing. Steve and I were sitting in it last year, and I don't know whether one of the ropes just came undone or what, but we both managed to go ass over tea kettle, and it was a bit painful. So back to books. This book I was trying to intersperse it with was Worse Things Happen at Sea by Alan Snow, which is a continuation of the box trolls, which I'm going to talk about later because, one, I don't have the book with me, and so this is the second one, and yeah, I think Alan Snow did the illustrations. I just had one under my fingers that was particularly, oh, okay, here, this is funny. There we go. I don't know what the glare is like. Anyways, they're fun illustrations. And it's pretty much a ridiculous story. It's just full of shenanigans, ridiculous, and I don't even know how to describe it. It's at the moment there's a ship full of box troll. No, are they box trolls? No, humans and rats are the pirates of this ship that run a laundry because the ship has come aground in this community, and some countess has come along and was so distracted by the dirty linen that she tripped and fell, and so now there's from the people who are in powerful positions, there's some kind of shenanigans afoot in order to make these pirates come up with a fine of 10,000 grots, which is way too much, and there's some other stuff about to happen, and they just it's going to be just completely silly. The next one I've got that I just started, I was really looking forward to this. It's he's written 2 books by Hank Green. He's A Beautiful Foolish Endeavor, I believe, is the second book, and the first one was an absolutely remarkable thing. Hank Green is one of the 2 brothers of the Green brothers, Vlog brothers, and he's one of the most recognized science teachers in America for I guess just science in general, although I think that he tends to gear it towards people with, well, I guess youth in a way, like to engage people who wouldn't otherwise be interested in science. But his brother John Green wrote The Fault in Our Stars and Turtles All the Way Down, and just a few other, A Town Called Alice. So I just made an assumption that he was going to be intriguing, and he's a beautiful writer. He's it's very considered, it's very thoughtful, it's super, super sciencey, but not in a sort of, it's more on the techno side of science. And so for instance, someone is developing a chip that is all the electro bits and stuff that happen on chips, microchips, happen in coated gelling so that these could be attached. They're so small they could be attached to neurotransmitters and would help with vision or hearing or hearts. And it's also really involved in things like Reddit and tweets and sort of a community called SOM, S-O-M, and it has to do with bit mining, which is some sort of completely arbitrary, unreal currency in the world of computers, and I guess how the world's reality in the world and things that the average person, maybe the younger generation, thinks of these things, but I don't think in terms of bitcoins or bit mining or any of that sort of thing. So I don't really understand the world yet that he's drawing. I guess if you already do a lot of gaming and so on, I think that you would have no trouble following what he's talking about. But I'm about 15-20 pages in, and it's a 500-page book, so I think it's going to be a bit slow, because if I really liked that stuff, I'd already be doing it. So I'm not sure. I have a feeling I might be disappointed. So the last book I've picked up was just a complete random choice on my part. And it is A Very Nearly Honorable League of Pirates, Magic Marks the Spot, written by Caroline Carlson. This is a middle reader book. Young girl, Hillary, has decided her father is an admiral, yes, I believe so, in the Navy, and she's decided that she does not want to go the route of proper young ladies. She wants to be a pirate. And so she's applied to go to the pirate apprenticeship school, which she's accepted at initially, but then they realized that Hillary, as a name in these times, was both a girl's and a boy's name. So they assumed she was a boy, was accepted, and when they find out she's a girl, then now she's got to go to the girls for finishing school. So I'm just there, just at the very beginning, and I really have no idea what's coming. I love middle books. They quite often, even if they're poorly written, they've usually got some kind of interesting imagination thing going on. There's a bee around my foot because I guess I'm tasty with all the sweat and stuff. Bit of salt. So, oh, and by the way, I did do the embroidery on this. I'm rather proud of it. Except I should have done another button. Boom. So that's it for me. I haven't really finished anything. Trying to give you another angle of the camp that we're at. Let me see if I can move this hammock. So in the far background there, so the near ground, that is a road. And our place no, that's my ear. That's a road all the way along. And as you go out that way, you head to the main, I guess you could call it the mainland. This used to be an island, but the province built this road. And when you go across to that peninsula, there's a bridge. And that's where the tide comes under back and forth. And so that's right at the moment, it's high tide, so we're not hearing anything. But when the tide is sort of at its sort of middle to low, low to middle, we do get an awful lot of sounds of rapids because there's a lot of rocks there. And so we get a beautiful sound of rushing, bubbling. So on the far side here, oh, there we go, where that little bit of blue is, that's the actual Medway River. And I guess about where that, somewhere between the dead tree, and how do you do this? Okay, I was doing it. That tree, there's a mooring out there where Steve has his boat, and it's just a sort of a two-person boat. And he sails up and down the Medway River. It's a huge harbor, goes quite a ways, and there's a great big island called Great Island that protects this part of the harbor, so we don't usually get too much, when there's bad storms, we don't usually get too much tidal surge. There's quite a lot of interruptions by the time it comes to us, and we'll get a fair amount of tidal lift, but in the winter especially, we'll get, when the ice has formed, we'll get a bit of erosion on the property. And this property is basically just rocks and pine duff, so we don't expect to own it for very long, because between rising seas and the fact that there's no real solid ground here, it'll just one day it'll just be swamped. So so let me see, you can't really see, well, you know what, the next time I'll do this I'll show you the marsh, because where you can't see it right now, let me see if I can just turn this. Okay, so now we're on the inside of the bridge. The bridge is over here, and towards here, this is where the tide comes in, but on this side, coming back, is a creek, Fox Creek, and that is a freshwater creek. So what we have right outside here is brackish water. So we sort of have the best of two worlds. We won't usually see too much in the way of saltwater creatures, but we'll get eels. If there's an eel, I'm running the other direction. But mackerel and other kinds of fish that can tolerate sort of both worlds. And so what happens is the cat likes to go down because the water is just good enough for a cat to like to drink. And there's a spot where she likes to sit underneath the dock and sunbathe or shade bathe and watch the dragonflies and so on. And so this is where, you know, these are the three sort of main reading spots. There's the gazebo, the hammock, and the next time I video, I'll go down to the dock if it's, I'm not quite sure I can get the tripod down there safely because it's a really narrow dock. When Steve builds things, he likes to build them with as few tolerances as possible. So I bet the tripod will fall off. And anyways, I didn't fall off the hammock. That's great. I'll be back next week with hopefully some finished books and some concrete thoughts on the books we've read and a new pile for the next week. I hope all that your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I look forward to seeing you later. Bye-bye.